In the shadowed land of Galventria, where ancient secrets whispered through the trees and magic clung to the air like mist, there lived a young healer named Zara. With hands skilled at mending wounds and a heart too brave for her own good, she never imagined her path would lead her into the darkness of the cursed woods, or to the broken creature that waited there, neither fully beast nor man, but something far more dangerous. Zara froze mid-step, her heart hammering against her ribs. The forest around her had gone unnaturally silent, the usual chirping of birds and rustling leaves replaced by an eerie hum that seemed to come from the earth itself. The air felt wrong, charged, oppressive, like a storm waiting to strike. Then she saw it. Through the tangled undergrowth, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Black, gleaming scales glinted in the dim light, pulsing faintly as if alive with their own dark energy. Zara's breath hitched as a low, guttural growl rippled through the trees, vibrating in her bones. She took a shaky step forward, clutching the strap of her herb pouch like a lifeline. Her instincts screamed at her to turn back, to run, but something stronger, a pull she couldn't explain, drew her closer. As she edged past the ancient oaks, the ground beneath her feet seemed to tremble. And then she saw it in full. A dragon. It lay sprawled across the forest floor, its massive body tangled in the twisted roots of the underbrush. Its wings, enormous, leathery, and torn, shuddered with labored breaths. Smoke curled from its nostrils, and its black scales shimmered like liquid obsidian, glowing faintly with an unnatural light. But it wasn't the dragon's size or its sheer presence that sent a cold wave of fear through Zara. It was its eyes. They weren't the blazing, predatory amber she had always imagined in tales of dragons. These eyes were human, haunted, piercing, filled with a sorrow so deep it made her stomach churn. "Go," it rasped, the voice impossibly low and filled with a power that sent the hairs on Zara's neck standing on end. "Leave while you still can." Her legs felt rooted to the ground, trembling under the weight of both terror and an inexplicable need to help. She should have turned and run, but instead, she reached instinctively for the pouch of herbs at her belt. I can help you," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, trembling with both fear and resolve. The dragon's growl deepened, its claws scraping the ground as if warning her to stay away. "Do not meddle, human. You do not understand the danger you invite." Zara took a step closer, her hand trembling as it hovered over the torn skin of the dragon's side. The magic radiating from the creature burned against her palm, powerful and ancient, yet she couldn't pull away. "I don't understand," she admitted, her voice steadier now, though her heart still raced. "But I know I can't leave you like this." The dragon's eyes narrowed, studying her as if searching for a reason to strike, or perhaps to trust. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the ragged sound of the beast's breaths. And then, to her shock, it stilled, its great head lowering slightly in reluctant surrender. "Do what you must," it murmured, its voice laced with both bitterness and resignation. "But know this, some wounds cannot be healed." Zara's fingers hovered for a moment longer over the dragon's wounded side, the heat of its magic pulsating against her skin. She could feel the weight of its words pressing on her chest, the sorrow that hung between them like an invisible chain. She didn't understand. How could she? Dragons weren't supposed to be real. They were myths, legends, stories to tell children on cold nights. But the creature before her, this shattered being, was no myth. It was something much older, much more dangerous. Swallowing her fear, Zara reached into her pouch, pulling out a handful of herbs she had gathered earlier. They were simple, but potent, enough to ease pain and heal wounds, though she didn't know if they could do anything for something so ancient and powerful. She whispered an incantation under her breath, an old healing chant passed down through her family, and gently pressed the herbs to the dragon's gaping wound. The dragon's eyes flickered, narrowing in suspicion, but it didn't pull away. Zara could feel the magic twisting around her, responding to the incantation as if it, too, recognized the weight of what was happening. Her palms burned as the herbs began to work, but it wasn't enough. Not nearly enough. She gritted her teeth, willing her magic to push deeper, to reach the heart of the wound. The air around them shimmered with power, the silence thick with the presence of something ancient, something lost. The dragon's growl turned into a strained moan as the healing magic fought against the curse that clung to it like a shadow. "I don't know if I can heal you," Zara said, her voice soft but filled with determination. "But I won't leave you to suffer." The dragon's eyes flickered again, and for a moment, Zara thought she saw something else in them, something that wasn't just sorrow or anger. There was gratitude, buried deep beneath the layers of pain and bitterness. "You're a fool," the dragon rasped, its voice barely more than a whisper. "But you have courage, girl." Zara didn't reply. She just kept working, pulling on every bit of magic she could muster, coaxing it into the dragon's wound. She didn't know how long it took, but when she finally withdrew her hands, exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. The dragon's breathing had slowed, its body no longer trembling with the same intensity, though it still lay weak and broken before her. "You've done more than I thought possible," the dragon said, its voice softer now, tinged with an emotion Zara couldn't quite place. "But the curse, it is not so easily undone." Zara swallowed, her hands shaking as she wiped sweat from her brow. "The curse?" she asked, though she already knew it was something far darker than she had imagined. The dragon's eyes closed briefly, a flicker of agony passing over its face. "I was once king of the skies," it said, its voice distant, as though reliving a memory too painful to hold. "But a betrayal, centuries ago, left me bound to this form, a prisoner of my own power, cursed to walk this earth as nothing more than a shadow of what I once was." Zara knelt beside it, her heart aching for the creature that had once been something so grand, so powerful. "What happened? Who did this to you?" The dragon opened its eyes again, locking onto hers. "A trusted ally," it said bitterly, "one who sought to control my power for their own gain. They bound me with magic older than time, and I have been cursed ever since. I cannot die. I cannot be free. I am only a reminder of my failure." Zara didn't know what to say. She had seen pain in her life, but this was a different kind of suffering, a kind that went beyond the physical, beyond what she could heal with herbs and magic. "I don't know how to break this curse," Zara said softly, her eyes full of sympathy. "But I will find a way. You don't deserve this." The dragon gave a dry, bitter laugh. "You have a heart of gold, girl. But this curse is not something that can be undone by simple kindness." Zara looked down at her hands, still tingling with the remnants of the magic she had used. "Maybe not, but that doesn't mean I won't try." The dragon's gaze softened, though the sorrow remained. "You are brave, human, but you do not know what you face. Even if you could break the curse, there are forces that will hunt you, that will use you to do what I cannot." Zara didn't flinch. "I've faced worse." The dragon studied her for a long moment, its gaze piercing and ancient. Then slowly it nodded. Perhaps you are the one who can end this, after all." The air around them seemed to hum with a strange energy, as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Zara stood up, wiping the dirt and sweat from her hands, determination settling in her chest. "I'll find a way," she promised. "I won't leave you here. I'll help you, no matter the cost." The dragon's eyes flickered again, a brief flash of something. Hope, maybe, before it was swallowed by the shadows once more. "Then you must be prepared for what is to come," it said, its voice a low rumble. "The path you walk will not be easy, and you will face darkness beyond your imagining." Zara nodded, her resolve hardening. "I've walked through darkness before. I'll do it again if it means saving you." With that, the dragon let out a long, exhausted breath, and Zara turned to leave. The forest seemed quieter now, though there was an undercurrent of tension, as though something unseen was watching her every move. She didn't know what the future held, or how she would break the dragon's curse. But Zara knew one thing with certainty: she wasn't turning back. Whatever it took, she would find a way to set the dragon free or die trying. Zara's steps were heavy as she left the dragon behind, the weight of her promise pressing down on her shoulders like an invisible burden. The path through the forest seemed darker now, more foreboding. The trees closed in around her, their gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal hands. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying with it faint echoes of the dragon's voice, urging her forward and warning her of the dangers that lay ahead. Her mind raced with thoughts of the curse, of the broken king lying in the forest with eyes full of sorrow, and something else, something that felt like hope. But Zara had no illusions about the road ahead. If there was any truth to what the dragon had said, the forces that had bound her were not something simple, not something easily undone. And if she was going to find a way to break the curse, she would need help. More than the herbs and spells she had learned in her small village. The deeper she walked, the quieter the forest became, as though holding its breath. The trees, once thick with life, now seemed hollow, their trunks twisted and warped as if they had been shaped by dark magic. Zara felt the eyes of the forest upon her, the unseen creatures watching her every move. It wasn't long before she came upon the first sign of what she sought. In a clearing, bathed in a strange light, stood a figure, tall, cloaked in dark robes, with a hood that concealed their face. The figure didn't move as Zara approached, but Zara could feel the power emanating from them. Magic, ancient magic. It made her skin tingle, her instincts screaming at her to turn back, but she couldn't. Not now. The figure raised their head as Zara stepped into the clearing, their eyes glowing faintly beneath the hood. They were not human, but something else, something ageless, something powerful. "You seek to break a curse," the figure said, their voice deep and resonant, echoing in the stillness of the forest. "A foolish endeavor, child." Zara straightened, meeting the figure's gaze with defiance. "I will do whatever it takes. I will not leave the dragon to suffer." The figure's lips twisted into something between a smile and a sneer. "You do not understand what you are dealing with. The curse you seek to undo is bound by more than just magic. It is bound by blood, by betrayal, by a power greater than you can imagine." Zara clenched her fists, frustration welling up inside her. "I don't care about the cost. I won't leave him like this." The figure's eyes glowed brighter for a moment, their expression unreadable. Then they stepped aside, motioning for Zara to approach. "Very well then. You will need to understand the depth of what you are walking into." Zara hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward. The figure raised their hand, and the air around them shimmered, a portal opening in the center of the clearing. It was a swirling vortex of energy, pulsing with dark, swirling magic. "This is the path you must take," the figure said. "Through this portal, you will find the answers you seek. But be warned, the journey is not one for the faint of heart. What lies beyond is not a place for healing, but a place for facing the truth of the curse. Only by confronting it can you hope to break it." Zara took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. This was it. There was no turning back now. She stepped forward into the portal. The world around her shifted, swirling into darkness. For a moment, Zara felt as though she was falling through a tunnel of night, the air thick with power and the sense of something ancient and forgotten. Her surroundings blurred, her feet no longer touching solid ground. She reached out, but there was nothing to hold on to. Only the pull of the magic, the dark weight of the curse that surrounded her. Then, with a sudden jolt, she landed hard on the ground, the impact knocking the breath from her lungs. She gasped, pushing herself to her feet, her heart racing as she surveyed her surroundings. She was no longer in the forest. The landscape before her was bleak and desolate, a barren wasteland of cracked earth and twisted, withered trees. The sky above was a dull, blood red, casting an eerie glow over the land. Zara's breath caught in her throat. This was no natural place. It was a realm of shadows, a reflection of the curse that bound the dragon. In the distance, Zara saw movement. A shadow, towering and menacing, slithered across the land, its shape indistinct but unmistakably large. Zara knew, without a doubt, that this was the source of the curse. Taking a deep breath, Zara set off toward it, her every step heavy with purpose. The air grew colder with each passing moment, the whispers of forgotten voices brushing against her skin. She wasn't alone here. The creatures of this land, whatever they were, watched her as she walked, their eyes glowing faintly in the shadows. As she neared the shadowy figure, it resolved into a massive form, half dragon, half something else, its body twisted by the same curse that had bound the dragon to the forest. It was enormous, with scales that shimmered like cracked obsidian, and eyes that glowed with an eerie, unnatural light. "You have come," the creature hissed, its voice a low, rasping growl. "To undo what cannot be undone." Zara didn't flinch. "I came to free the dragon," she said, her voice steady, though her pulse raced. "And I will, no matter the cost." The creature let out a dark laugh, a sound like thunder rumbling across the wasteland. "You think you can break the curse? You are a fool, child. This curse is older than you can imagine. It is bound by blood, by sacrifice, by betrayal. Only those who have caused the wound can heal it." Zara clenched her fists, her heart pounding. "Then I will face it. I will face whatever it takes to break it." The creature's eyes glowed brighter, its body shifting and warping with dark magic. "So be it," it said, its voice a low growl. "You will face the truth of the curse. And in doing so, you will learn the price of freedom." The ground beneath Zara's feet trembled, and suddenly, she was no longer standing in the desolate wasteland. She was in another place, somewhere dark and suffocating, a place filled with memories of pain and betrayal. Before her stood the dragon, but not as she had seen him. He was whole again, powerful, majestic, his wings spread wide, his eyes glowing with the same human sorrow she had seen before. But now, the sorrow was mixed with anger. "You," he said, his voice booming with the authority of the king he once was. "You are the one who will end this. You are the one who will face the truth of my curse." Zara stepped forward, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her. This was the heart of the curse, the source of the dragon's pain, the betrayal that had bound him to this fate. "I am ready," she said, her voice unwavering. "Show me what must be done." The dragon's eyes narrowed, and with a deep, sorrowful breath, he began to speak. "It was my own brother," he said, his voice filled with grief. "He betrayed me, for power, for control, and in doing so, he cursed us both." Zara felt the air around her grow colder, the shadows deepening. "How can I undo it?" she asked, her voice a whisper. The dragon's gaze softened, though it still held the sorrow of centuries. "The curse can only be broken with the blood of the betrayer. But that blood will cost you." Zara's heart sank. I understand." And so, the choice was laid before her. To break the curse and free the dragon, Zara would have to face the bloodline of the betrayer. She would have to sacrifice something of herself, something that would change her forever. Without hesitation, she nodded. "I will do it. I will free him." With that, the dragon's form shimmered and began to fade, the curse unraveling with each passing moment. Zara, standing in the heart of the darkness, knew that the cost was high, but so was the price of freedom. And when she returned to the forest, the dragon was no longer cursed. He was free, but so was she. As the dragon's form shimmered and faded, Zara felt herself being drawn back into the desolate wasteland. The weight of his words hung heavy in the air, the truth of the curse leaving an ache in her chest. The forest around her was still, the air thick with anticipation. Zara turned to the path ahead, knowing it would lead her to the final piece of this journey. It wasn't long before she found herself standing at the edge of a crumbling stone fortress, hidden deep in the forest. The air reeked of decay and old magic. This was the place the dragon had spoken of, the lair of his brother, the one who had betrayed him. Zara gripped her pouch tightly, every step forward a battle against the fear clawing at her resolve. Inside the fortress, the air felt alive with power, crackling like a storm ready to break. In the center of a grand, crumbling hall stood a figure cloaked in shadow. His presence was suffocating, and when he turned to face Zara, his glowing red eyes pierced the gloom. This was the betrayer. "You've come to end what you don't understand," the figure hissed, his voice a venomous blend of arrogance and anger. "You think freeing him will bring peace? It will destroy you." Zara stood firm, her voice steady. "The curse has destroyed enough. I won't let it take anything more." The betrayer let out a dark laugh. "Then come, let us see if you are truly ready to pay the price." With a roar, the betrayer's form began to shift. His body twisted and grew, dark scales erupting across his skin as he transformed into a monstrous, corrupted version of the dragon Zara had vowed to save. The battle that followed was fierce and unrelenting. Zara's magic clashed against the betrayer's curses, the air around them alight with flashes of power. Every spell she cast drained her strength, but she pushed on, fueled by the promise she had made. Finally, as the betrayer lunged toward her, Zara drew on the last of her magic, summoning a power she didn't know she possessed. Her spell struck true, piercing the betrayer's chest and severing the dark magic that bound him. The betrayer let out a final, anguished cry before collapsing to the ground. The curse unraveled in an instant, and the fortress began to crumble around Zara. She ran, her heart pounding, barely escaping the collapsing ruins. When she emerged into the forest, the air felt different, lighter, freer. The dragon stood waiting, his majestic form restored. "You did it," he said, his voice filled with awe and gratitude. Zara nodded, though exhaustion weighed heavy on her. "The cost was mine to bear," she said softly. The dragon bowed his head, a gesture of deep respect. "You have done more than free me. You have brought peace to a legacy of pain." As dawn broke over the forest, Zara felt the weight of her journey lift. The dragon soared into the sky, his freedom a testament to her courage. And though Zara's life would never be the same, she knew she had found something greater, her own strength, her own purpose. The forest watched her as she walked away, not as the girl who had entered it, but as the hero who had changed it forever.